I deleted all the wedding photos right in front of them. That was the answer to this wedding photographer's frustration of not being fed at a wedding. Savage. Just badass. Just, goals. Goals.
Finish it.
This is a huge story that it's been going around for a while. I'm reading from the independent.co.uk for a summary of this, and this is what happened. And that was not clickbait. That's actually what happened. But let me tell you the entire story. So a couple decides to hire someone they know to be a photographer, and it was a friend. He was a hobbyist wedding photographer, which is usually like, no, like in the wedding photography world, just no, don't hire your friend. Your friend should be a guest. And if they're not a wedding photographer, and in this case, he was a dog groomer, then you probably don't want to have them photograph a wedding. But the couple was looking to save a couple bucks and they skimped out on the wedding photographer. Error number one. The one thing you have after the wedding day is your wedding photos and video. And your flowers if you decided to do that freeze-dried thing with them. And that's it. You spend so much more on so many other things, but the only memory you will have of them is what's in your fading, deteriorating brain and whatever photos are there. Do not cheap out on your photographer. Definitely don't hire a friend/dog groomer hobbyist photographer to capture the most precious moment of your life on camera. Until you have kids anyway, of course. Here's what the photographer said. They were on a shoestring budget, and I agreed to shoot it for $250. A 10-hour wedding for $250. Let me just break this down for you. I am going to assume $250 is a lot of money to a lot of people. That's fine. However, what kind of camera are you going to shoot with when your budget basically is $250? But even if we take that away, let's just take that away. Let's just pretend he inherited a camera and he has like the best equipment possible. $250 will not even cover your transportation to and from the day. It won't cover your editing costs or your hosting costs. Think about that editing time, since I'm going to just assume, because this person was not a professional photographer, that they're not using the best editing AI or they're not using someone outsourced. They're probably sitting there for roughly, I'd say 10 to 20 hours editing. So when you take 10 to 20 hours editing, plus 10 hours of a wedding day, plus probably another 2 hours of transportation, plus all the back and forth, plus the scheduling emails, you're probably at 40 hours. So let's just do that math. And this is just where, if you were planning a wedding, this is just where red flags should be like all over the place. $250 divided by 40 hours is $6.25 an hour. That's below minimum wage. If somebody is agreeing to take your wedding photos for you who is not a professional at below minimum wage, you got problems. You're gonna have problems. You're gonna have problems. On the day of the wedding, the dog groomer/photographer said that they followed the bride to various appointments to take photos, shot the ceremony, reception speeches, and then when it came time for the food to be served, about 2 hours before they were meant to be finished photographing the wedding, which is typical. We'll get into typical vendor meals in a minute. Don't you? Just don't you go away. The dog groomer said that they were told they could not stop to eat, nor were they saved a seat at a table. Okay, you're normally not supposed to be saved a seat at a table. Let's just get that part out of the way. As a vendor, you are absolutely the help. If you are lucky enough to be at an amazing hall, and I'm gonna name 2 of them in the New Jersey area that are amazing halls that do this, you will have a great culinary experience while you are working, but that is rare. You will either be at Clark's Landing in Point Pleasant, where they actually give you a table inside the reception room, which is awesome because you never miss anything. You don't have to be served your dinner in a building 2 buildings over, which happens. I've been served in separate buildings a lot, and I've been served in basements, like all the way down to, what was that, Capital did that? And it was like down in the dungeon. For the record, that was a nice meal, but it was 11 o'clock at night and down in the dungeon, and Lord knows what's happening up there that I'm missing. Where you eat, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the room, but it is awesome if that happens. If your bride and groom pays for it, that's awesome. But the reason why Clark's Landing is so great is because they don't make the bride and groom pay extra for that. They do it because they know that it will give a better experience for their vendors that they see often, and a better experience for the clients because the photographer is always in the room. The second venue that I love the Shadowbrook in New Jersey, in Shrewsbury. They do it really well by giving you a backstage area. And it's not a seedy backstage area. I've seen the seedy backstage areas where it's like in a room that's next to the door and the way out, and like your gear gets stolen that way. No, no, no. The Shadowbrook has a backstage area. It's a backstage area for like the band. There's tables, there's drinks back there. There's cameras, so nothing's gonna happen. It's amazing. And it's just one door off the reception hall. So you can hide away your stuff. Your stuff doesn't have to be all over, having drunk guests pour drinks into your bag or trip over your stuff. Awesome. However, this is not the norm. There are very few halls that know how to do that correctly and do it tastefully. So the fact that he did not get a seat at a table, that's super normal. Super normal. What's not super normal is not being fed the day of. But this is something that should be outlined in a contract. And as a professional photographer, you should know that. You should have a contract. I have a line item in my contract right there. You can copy it if you would like, that says that I will be fed a meal similar to the guests the day of the wedding at an appropriate time. And if I'm not fed a meal, then I need the chance to take a break to go get my meal. And if possible, please seat me in the reception hall. And I do have a handful of couples that seat me as a guest, and that's awesome. Now, am I actually going to leave the wedding? No. Absolutely not. But what I'm doing in my contract here is I'm creating a norm. I'm creating a standard, and it's addressed. So if it's not addressed and they're going to go against it, I'm going to know about it ahead of time. Maybe they see that part of the contract and they say, hey, our caterer just doesn't include vendor meals. Like they just refuse to it. Fine. Wonderful. There's Uber Eats. I Uber Eats and get Grubhub and delivery to weddings all the time, all the time. If I'm going to a place where like I don't like the food, or I don't like where I'm being fed, or I know they're going to feed me really late when I need to be in the dance floor, that's a huge thing. Feeding us wildly late when like the cake cutting is happening. 5 minutes before the cake cutting is happening. Oh, here's your food. Okay, get up. We got to go cut the cake. No, thank you. I want to eat when the bride and groom eats, not because I feel like I'm self-important and I should be fed first, because that's when it's logical, because I'm not going to be photographing the bride and groom stuffing their faces or anybody else stuffing their faces at that point. So what I do is I'll ask the maitre d', hey, what time are you serving main course? Awesome. That's great. Don't worry about vendor meals for me. I'm going to get some Uber Eats. I'll make sure it's real discreet. No one's going to see it come. Like we arranged that, and no one's going to see us eating, not your food. Like it'll be in a separate spot. You should have that in your contract. You want to be fed, if for nothing else but expectations that you want to set with your couples. Talk about the vendor meal. I started around 11 a.m. and was due to finish around 7:30 p.m. Around 5 p.m., food is being served, and I was told I cannot stop to eat because I need to be a photographer. In fact, they didn't save me a spot at any table. I'm getting tired, and at this point, kind of regretting doing this for next to nothing. Hey, at least he admitted that. It's so unbelievably hot. The venue is in an old Veterans Legion, and it's like 110 Fahrenheit degrees, and there's no AC. Wow. Yeah. That sucks. That does suck. According to the OP, at that point, they informed a groom that they needed to take a 20-minute break to get something to eat and drink as they were out of water. We all bring water, should bring waters and granola bars to weddings, but sometimes it's not enough, especially if it's 110 degrees. To which the groom said that they would need to continue photographing or leave without pay. Now, photographers, you need to be paid 14 to 30 days before the wedding day in full. You do not get paid the day of. One, it's super tacky to be dealing with day of money with a couple. Super tacky. Get paid beforehand. With the heat, being hungry, being generally annoyed at the circumstance, I asked if he was sure, and he said yes. So I deleted all the photos I took in front of him, adding that then they left after informing the groom that they were not his photographer anymore. Oh my God. Like, mic drop. He really should have filmed the reaction of that groom. Like, I couldn't even imagine. But like, was that too much? Now, I will say I have had my fair share of temper tantrums at weddings over not being fed and being hot and cranky. And I'm just going to share some of those temper tantrums with you, none of which involved deleting photos. Once I had a temper tantrum, and it wasn't totally mine, but there was a really snooty country club in Jersey, and the guy was just a jerk. He commented on what I was wearing. He argued with me in front of the mother. He wouldn't let me have any piece of equipment in the room, and he wanted it in like the sketch area where I just knew it was going to be stolen. And I need to get to my equipment quickly, not in 10-minute intervals between changing lenses. Not cool. So they were such jerks. And then to top it off, we were getting fed in the yonder room, and the band came in, and the band, it happens a lot, ate all of our food. The band, who was there for all of 5 really 5 hours for actual performing hours, maybe an hour before for setup. Took all the food from the photographers and the videographer, and we've been working for 8 hours by then. It happens a lot. So bands, if you were watching this, please make sure that those who have been working a lot longer that wedding day get fed before you eat all the food. Just please and thank you. Love you. So there are these little pieces of like barely edible chicken, and my second photographer that will not be named, but love you, was so angry for me like all day. Like this second photographer, he's very protective of me, and if he sees me being treated poorly, he gets angry for me. He decided to take those little pieces of chicken and hide them all around the wedding venue to later be found by following the stench of what they left. Another time I had a temper tantrum. I was actually a second photographer working for someone else. And this one, I'm going to say, is totally my fault in that preparedness thing. But it was also like the woman was such a bitch. She was such like a snooty little bitch. We were working in I'm going to say like mid-luxury venue, not a high luxury one, but like mid. And they said they were going to feed us, and they fed us by giving us 4 pieces of small ravioli in a bowl. And the woman that I kind of been around, I thought she was like an independent planner. I didn't realize that she was with the hall and the caterer. And she heard me talking to the main photographer, like, can you believe they give us 4 pieces of ravioli? Like, that's a meal? That's not a meal. Like, give me 10. Maybe that's like close to a meal. And then this woman got all like, how dare you insult our chef's knowledge of portion control? I bring granola bars and I'm fine. I don't need to eat anything except granola bars. You should really be more prepared. First of all, granola bars only get you so far. I'm sorry. One cannot live on granola bars alone. You can't. Your chef's knowledge of portion control, I'm sure, is fine, but that ravioli is one of 4 courses served after the cocktail hour that day. That's a bit different than expecting people that have been working for 10 hours to survive off 4 pieces of ravioli. And not for nothing, but the last of it, that 4-piece ravioli plate, I am sure they charged the bride and groom for, which is the biggest baloney. When you are charging a couple $25 to $50 for a vendor plate and then hand them 4 pieces of ravioli, 4 pieces of ravioli do not cost $35, $40 or whatever your vendor meal plate is. No, that's just no. And I have seen so many stories about this, so many. In fact, if you go to No Vendor Meal on Instagram, there is a whole account talking. It's really about all things weddings, and it's hysterical. But No Vendor Meal is the name of the account, and they show pictures of all these vendor meals. Are you going to it right now? It's freaking hysterical. And you rate the vendor meals when they pop up. And I mean, I have been fed leftover cocktail hour food, and that is the most insulting because that's been out for like 3 hours and spit on and coughed on and sneezed on. I've had my shooters actually get sick from that leftover cocktail hour food. And you're charging people for that? Nuh-uh. No. That's where it's wrong. Like I said, I don't care if I have to order my food. I don't care if you tell me you're not going to feed me. I can prepare for that. But you're going to feed me 4 pieces of ravioli or food that's going to get me sick and then charge your clients for it? Are you freaking kidding me? Back to the story. My temper tantrum's over. In the comments of the original Reddit post, the OP also noted that they had originally been invited to the wedding as a guest. They had RSVP'd with their food choice, and then, was asked to be elevated to the level of photographer and then was given no food. So, I mean, I can see it. I can absolutely see it. I mean, this guy was taken advantage of in so many ways, in the money kind of way, but even if he was like a friend, right? Even if he was a friend and just decided to do it for $250 to cover some costs, that's not how you treat people. It's not how you treat humans. Anyway, let me know what you think of this. You can talk about vendor meals. Please tell me about your temper tantrums if you've ever had any, and your experience with vendors overall. Should he have deleted the photos? No, I could never stomach that. Like, as a human being, I could never stomach that. I would hold them hostage, maybe. Maybe I would hold them hostage in a temper tantrum sort of way until I got paid. Well, you should always hold them hostage until you get paid. But would you do that?
Yeah.
You would delete it?
No. On the wedding day? No.
You would just hold it hostage.
I would just hold it. That's what I thought you meant.
No.
Yeah, no. First of all, if you delete their photos, you're in violation of your own contract. You're under contract.
Okay, but going for contract, if by some act of God and equipment malfunction, which he could obviously not claim because he did it in front of him, I lose all of the wedding photos in my contract, and I'm sure in yours too, it says they're only entitled to a full refund, which he wasn't even paid anyway yet.
Yeah, but if deliberately did that.
Yeah, it deliberately is a different story.
That changes the whole thing.
Would you ever deliberately do it and then claim act of God?
No, that's called lying. It's very dishonest.
I don't think I could ever, like, because that's my work too. Like, that's my hard effort. Like, my art. And it's not just pushing a button. So, I don't know. I can never do it. I can never do it. What would you do? Let me tell you about this video sponsor, Squarespace. I have been using Squarespace for probably over a decade. Squarespace is a platform where you can create beautiful custom websites in just a few minutes. Choose from a plethora of templates where you can easily plug and play your own work. It's an all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. We all know that an online presence is crucial for your brand, so build one that stands out. Head over to this link for my exclusive 10% discount on your first domain at Squarespace.